when she rolls over the... Oh, wow! She's coming back.
Oh, there she is.
Oh, yeah, but I'm not going to shoot her.
Deep beneath the ocean's surface, where sunlight doesn't penetrate, creatures thrive in conditions that were once thought uninhabitable.
The ocean, when you really think about it, is essentially one massive body of water wrapping around the 7 main landmasses, creating the blue planet that sustains life as we know it. While we've yet to find life on other planets, people remain fascinated by the mysteries of Earth's oceans, often diving into the depths to uncover what lies beneath. But just because you go searching for something doesn't mean you'll like what you find. Here are 20 scary underwater discoveries that might make you think twice about what's hiding below the surface. Number 20. The Great Blue Hole. Let's look at something that's both terrifying and yet something that people don't mind exploring if they have the right amount of equipment. We'll rewind a bit, though, and explain that this is a blue hole. If you take a look at the picture of the place, you'll see that it is indeed a blue hole that is smack dab in the middle of the water here and looks very different from all the water around it. What in the world is going on, though? Well, it's basically because this hole is a sinkhole, and it's one that was left by a crater of sorts that's basically 500 feet deep. But while some would see a mysterious and arguably very dangerous place to go, there are plenty of scuba divers out there who have literally gone and ventured into the place just to see what it's like. This is part of the terror right here because people going into the unknown like that without a care in the world tends not to go well for them. Surely enough, people have gotten hurt or even died in this place, and it's not hard to see why. The deeper you go into this big blue hole, the more dangerous and arguably airless it becomes. For example, there's a thick layer of toxic hydrogen sulfide spanning the width of the entire sinkhole like a floating blanket once you reach a certain depth. Oh, and during one expedition, a team in a submarine went to the very bottom of the hole and found a graveyard of people who had died attempting to dive there. Their bodies still remain there to this day, believe it or not. So yes, it is a place that's an attraction, but it's also a place of a death sentence if you dare to venture into its depths. Number 19. Yanagi Monument. Now we'll move to something that's very much about how scary it is, and yet we don't even know exactly what it is. Scientists and experts in the field can't really agree on a very basic and yet core concept of this so-called monument. But first, I'll give you the backstory. The Yanagi Monument is an underwater formation located off the coast of Yanagi, the southernmost of some islands in Japan. In 1985, a diving instructor was giving a tour of the area when he stumbled across it and didn't exactly know what it was. As scientists and various others descended, literally, to examine it, they found a massive monument that cannot be truly defined in simple terms. So much so that it was labeled at the time as the greatest underwater discovery ever, and it's not hard to see why, given how grand the monument is. But here's the kicker. Despite us knowing that it's real, many can't decide whether this thing was made by man or by nature. You would think that it would be easy to discern based on how it looked or even how it was shaped, but apparently not so much. Some swear that certain parts of it look like it was just weathered to appear that way, while other parts, including one that looks like a face, were clearly made by man and tools. Some even state that it might have been part of a land bridge over 10,000 years ago when the islands were connected to Taiwan. The debate rages on, and it's a bit scary how we have all this technology and yet can't determine, at times, what something is or even how it came to be. Number 18. Truck Lagoon. Sunken ships are plentiful in the ocean, but if you go to Truck Lagoon, you'll find one of great historical importance due to what happened there during the Second World War. This was a place where the majority of the Japanese fleet was stationed during the war. So, not unlike what the Japanese did to the US at Pearl Harbor, the US retaliated and bombed the place during Operation Hailstone. The operation was quite effective, and as a result, you can find hundreds of ships and aircraft, along with other materials that were there that day, still lying in the waters below. While it is scary to think about all the damage and destruction that was done to the fleet, the location has now become a dive site. People can explore history should they desire, diving into the depths to see remnants of a pivotal moment in history. Number 17. Bimini Road. Now, if you're thinking that what happened in Japan was a one-off in terms of being a mystery regarding how and why it exists, then you'd be wrong. Because if you go to the other side of the world, you're going to find something near Jamaica known as the Bimini Road. Back in 1968, within the waters off the northwest coast of North Bimini Island, Joseph Manson Valentine, Jacques Mayol, and Robert Engove encountered an extensive pavement that didn't seem to match up with what was all around them at the time. When it was later explored, there were many finds of rounded stones of various sizes that didn't add up. When all of this was pieced together in the minds and accounts of many, it was found to be a road of some sort, and the Bimini Road was named. But what exactly it was, well, that's still a mystery that nobody can agree on. So much so that if you were to read books about the Bimini Road, you'd find very different descriptions due to people exaggerating what the rocks are like, how big they are, and so on. One thing that can be determined in the minds of some is that someone did something with these rocks and that it was not natural. This was supposedly proven by how the rocks were shaped. But to what purpose? None can truly say. Of course, there are plenty of other people out there who claim that this is a natural process and bring to the table all sorts of charts and data to support their theory. It's kind of perplexing, making you wonder what the truth is and if it isn't somewhere in the middle. Number 16. Orta Cave. Orta Cave is a gypsum crystal cave located underneath the western Ural Mountains in Russia. What's really cool about it, though, is that it was formed millions of years ago and remains to this day. Allegedly, due to the grandness of the cave itself, there are many legends about it. One of these includes a story about a lady that actually lives in the cave. A photo campaign was even conducted to showcase the Lady of the Cave, and it's honestly pretty cool. But what's so scary about it? That would be the scope of it all. There are rooms in this place that are the size of football fields, and there are multiple ones like that. This was all formed naturally and still hasn't been fully explored. Once again, this proves that nature can do wonders when it's left alone to work. Now it's time for today's subscriber pick. Off the coast of South Africa, a group of deep-sea divers embarked on what they thought would be a routine exploration. Known for their breathtaking marine biodiversity, these waters are no stranger to large aquatic creatures. But nothing could prepare the divers for what they encountered on this fateful dive. While documenting the underwater landscape, the team's camera lights illuminated a massive figure in the distance. At first, it appeared to be a large whale breaching the depth, but as it came closer, the reality was far more chilling. The creature, with its translucent, skeletal-like appearance, had baleen-like structures resembling that of a whale, but the rest of its body looked like a hybrid nightmare straight out of prehistoric times. The divers, both fascinated and terrified, documented the creature's eerie movements. With its haunting, gaping mouth and otherworldly eyes, the creature seemed to study the divers just as intently as they were observing it. Experts who analyzed the footage claim it could be a new deep-sea species, while others suggest it may be an ancient survivor from a time long forgotten. Although the footage went viral, skeptics believe it's an elaborate hoax. Either way, the divers unanimously agree. It's something they wish they'd never found. Number 15. Mayan City. A sinkhole was discovered in the city of Mayapan in Mexico back in 2020. That in and of itself isn't all that scary because sinkholes, well, they exist all over the world, and this one clearly wasn't recent. The reason for this was that the locals in the area actually knew about it and refused to get water from the underground hole because they believed it to be a gateway to the underworld. Now, I'm going to get into the scary territory, and I'm not even done yet. As they dove down deeper into this hole, they also found human skulls, which means that the place did have humans in it at one time. Whether it was for a ritual or not cannot be fully said, but it would track with Mayan culture, especially if they really believed that this place was a gateway to the underworld. Number 14. Train Graveyard. Here's another historical mystery for you, and one that is indeed very curious for a lot of reasons. You see, off the coast of New Jersey, a spot of water was found to have not one but two rare locomotives just lying there in the water. This wouldn't be all that scary or weird at first because trains have ended up in the waters of the world before. The catch here, though, is that not only are these rare trains, but no one really has any clue how they got there or even where they came from. The numbers that they have, they don't line up on any records. While it is widely believed that the trains merely fell off a barge at one point in time and then sank into the New Jersey waters, that can't be proven either. As such, this train graveyard remains, and it is explored and dissected for clues as to what really happened there. Number 13. Dean's Blue Hole. Dean's Blue Hole is the deepest sinkhole of its kind in the world today. Much like with another blue hole that I talked about before, this one is deep, and it's full of dangers that don't seem to scare away divers for one reason or another. It might just be that they're daring or perhaps foolish, but who am I to judge? There are also some scary yet beautiful sights to be found within the dive hole if you go down deep enough. One of these is a sandfall. Yes, as in a cascading amount of sand falling down deeper into the hole. Apparently, it happens when there's a lot of movement in the water caused by people swimming or diving. Adding to its allure, Dean's Blue Hole also hosts an annual freediving competition called Vertical Blue, where elite divers from around the globe test their limits. The sinkhole's walls create an almost otherworldly vertical tunnel, which divers describe as both mesmerizing and intimidating. Marine life in the hole is sparse compared to the surrounding waters, but some lucky explorers have reported spotting unusual creatures like rare jellyfish and deep-dwelling fish species. Despite its beauty, the sinkhole's depth and unpredictable currents make it one of the riskiest dive sites in the world. Those who venture too far or push their limits without proper equipment can find themselves in life-threatening situations. Whether it's the thrill of discovery or the challenge of diving into the unknown, Dean's Blue Hole continues to attract adventurers seeking to conquer its depths. Whether or not this is a good thing, well, I'll leave that up to you to decide. Number 12. SS Thisle Gorm. I just want to start off by saying that's a weird name for a ship. I mean, who calls their vessel the Thisle Gorm? Regardless of questionable names, the SS Thisle Gorm is a shipwreck from the Red Sea that's gotten many people's attention over the years. It was a ship used by the British during the Second World War and carried a whole bunch of equipment heading to North Africa for the war effort. But then it got bombed in 1941 and sank. While this isn't scary in and of itself, you can dive into the vessel and experience just how much this thing was carrying when it was deployed. It even had a full-on steam locomotive in its cargo hold that you can visit, alongside all the military equipment that was lost. It's just scary to think that all of this was lost and never recovered. One could only imagine what would have happened if this cargo had been brought to its intended place, or if it would have made a difference in the war. It's hard to say, and perhaps that's the scariest thing of all of the what-ifs of history that we ponder at times. Number 11. Mayan City. You already know about Atlantis, but there was something that I didn't get to mention, that there are real sunken cities in the world today. Natural disasters and other elements have led to sunken cities in Egypt, Greece, and even India. Another one that's known in China is Mayan City. Ruling as an empire between the years 25 and 200 AD, this city was one of the most powerful places in what is now China. The city was so resilient and important that even when China itself went through its many cultural changes, the city remained. Now you're waiting for the twist, and that's good because there is a very significant one, though it is both scary and sad. In 1959, the Chinese government created a river dam project, choosing the city as its location. The valley in which the city had so proudly stood for centuries was then flooded with water, and the city became submerged beneath the depth. That's right, the Chinese government intentionally sank one of their most culturally historical and significant cities in order to help them with a dam. That's pretty damningly sad and scary, that the Chinese government was willing to sacrifice such an important piece of history for this project. It raises a haunting question. If they were willing to do it for one city, what's stopping them from doing it to another? Number 10. Shark statue. Sometimes people can't help but be people, and by that, I mean both in a loving and shaking my head kind of way. At a lake in Switzerland, divers went into the water and found something they did not expect. If the title of the entry wasn't a big enough clue for you, they did indeed find a shark statue. But not just any shark statue, one that was an impressive size and had a toothy grin that would definitely scare anyone who just so happened to come across it during their dive. What's even stranger is the mystery surrounding its origin. No one has stepped forward to claim responsibility for the shark, and local authorities remain baffled about how something so large was transported and placed without anyone noticing. Divers who encountered the statue reported an unsettling feeling as they swam closer, describing it as eerily lifelike under the dim light of the lake's depth. Some speculate it could be part of an elaborate prank, while others wonder if it was an art installation meant to provoke thought, or maybe just fear. The statue's lifelike detail and unexpected placement make it both fascinating and unnerving, leaving many to wonder what other surprises might be lurking beneath the lake's surface. It's the kind of discovery that adds an extra layer of mystery to an otherwise serene environment. Remember, sharks are one of the most feared things in the water outright, and most people have an irrational fear of them at times. They think sharks are all man-eaters, which they're not, and they think that they actively seek out humans, which they don't. So, someone making and then dumping this into a lake with no clear good intention, well, that's scary just because it proves that humans really want to scare one another in some very sinister ways. Number 9. Octopus Nursery. If you were to hear that sea creatures like the octopus had nurseries for their young, that probably wouldn't be the weirdest thing you've ever heard. There are plenty of animals in the world, both above and below the surface, that have a nursery mindset, so octopuses doing it is just a natural option. But what if I told you that off the coast of California, scientists found over 1,000 octopuses huddling together around their eggs in the largest octopus nursery in the world? Chad King, a lead scientist on the exploration vessel Nautilus, noted that it had never been discovered on the west coast of the United States, or anywhere else in the entire world. An estimated 99% of the octopuses appeared to be brooding mothers, huddling upside down to protect their eggs that they had laid in crannies in the rock. While they don't look particularly scary in their huddled state, it is strange to see them in this position, given how we usually picture them. Another unsettling thought is that there are so many of them in one single spot. Could you even imagine if they all tried to swarm at someone or something that got too close? The other reason this is scary is that it disproves a key belief about octopuses as a whole, mainly that they always seem to be solitary creatures outside of basic things like mating. If you get 1,000 of anything together and they aren't fighting, that's a very social thing. So, it begs the question, what else do we not know about them? Number 8. Cenote Angelita. Next up, we have Cenote Angelita, another underwater sinkhole that you'll be able to witness if you head to Tulum in Mexico. The twist with this place is twofold. Firstly, it's a place that has a natural curiosity because there's an underwater river flowing within this hole. This is caused by the various elements within it, which allow the river to form and flow. It has garnered a lot of attention because of this phenomenon. What's truly fascinating is how this underwater river is formed. A dense layer of hydrogen sulfide separates the freshwater above from the saltwater below, creating a surreal visual effect that looks like a flowing river in the middle of the sinkhole. Divers often describe the experience as feeling like they're entering a different world, with ghostly trees and debris lying in the river below. This unique layering creates an eerie but captivating landscape that has been compared to scenes from a science fiction movie. However, the hydrogen sulfide not only adds to its mystique but also poses a significant threat. Prolonged exposure can lead to disorientation, which is why only experienced divers with proper equipment are allowed to explore its depths. Despite the risks, Cenote Angelita continues to attract adventurers from around the globe, drawn by its otherworldly beauty and sense of mystery. However, the problem is that the hole is very dangerous due to the presence of hydrogen sulfide, which can absolutely kill you if you were to get it into your system. What's more, divers have reported that it messes with their masks at times. So, if you go diving in that hole, you'll need to be very careful. Number 7. Pavlopetri. I've referenced a sunken Greek city before, but now I'm going to talk about it via Pavlopetri. What makes this one so noteworthy? That would be the fact that this is the oldest sunken city in the world, allegedly one that dates back 5,000 years, if its scans can be believed. What's more, nobody found out about it at large until 2011. That was after the BBC, of all organizations, conducted a scan of the area to get a 3D readout and documented the city in full. Leave it to the BBC to do everything for a lot of people. The scans revealed an incredibly well-preserved layout of streets, buildings, courtyards, and even tombs, providing a rare glimpse into urban planning from thousands of years ago. Researchers believe the city was submerged due to rising sea levels and tectonic activity in the region, a fate that may have also impacted other ancient coastal settlements. Among the most intriguing discoveries are ceramic shards and tools, which suggest that Pavlopetri was a bustling hub for trade and culture in its prime. Some of the artifacts point to connections with the Minoan and Mycenaean civilizations, adding another layer of historical importance. Despite its age and underwater location, the site continues to yield surprising insights, leading some archaeologists to call it a time capsule of Bronze Age life. Yes, other people had documented it before, to be clear, but it's the BBC and we like them more and they make great documentaries. Naturally, people have been studying it ever since in order to learn more about this ancient city and what really led to its sinking. Number 6. Magnen Squid. In 2007, an expedition to check on a spot of water by the Shell Company found something nobody expected. A creature that no one had ever seen before and one that has freaked out a lot of people since, due to its appearance. Meet the Magnen Squid, aka the long-armed squid. As you can see, this creature doesn't really look like any squid or octopus that anyone knows, mainly because of its angled arms. Those arms can extend incredibly deep, and this squid exists about 8,000 feet below the ocean's surface. Its arms, which are connected by thin membranes, give it an eerie, almost puppet-like appearance as it drifts silently through the water. Unlike many deep-sea creatures, the Magnen squid doesn't appear to be an active predator. Instead, researchers believe it uses its dangling arms like fishing lines to snare unsuspecting prey in the dark. What makes it even more unsettling is the way it hovers in place, almost as if it's watching and waiting. Scientists have only observed a handful of Magnen squids. So much about their behavior and life cycle remains a mystery. Some even speculate that their unique appearance and behavior could inspire tales of sea monsters in the future. But just how big does it get? Those legs can help it reach a total length of about 26 feet. When you see it drifting through the water, you'll swear it's not from this planet. To be clear, no, Cthulhu hasn't been found in the depths yet. Number 5. Underwater Sculpture Park. And now for something a bit different. Grenada's Millennium Underwater Sculpture Park was designed by the British sculptor Jason Decaires Taylor. But why put a park underwater and a sculpture park no less? According to the artist, he wanted to not only fill up the water with art, but to potentially help the local marine life by giving them a new place to live. The concept is known as artificial reefs, and they do work. Over time, these sculptures have become encrusted with coral, sponges, and algae, transforming them into eerie underwater relics. Schools of fish now dart between the statues, while crustaceans and other marine creatures make their homes in the crevices. Some sculptures have been partially eroded, giving them a ghostly appearance that makes the park feel like a submerged ancient civilization. Divers who visit often describe the experience as both haunting and mesmerizing, as the combination of human art and nature's touch creates an otherworldly sight. The artist has noted that this evolving interaction between the sculptures and the marine environment is exactly what he hoped for, a living, breathing testament to the power of art and nature working together. But what's freaky here is how the statues have gone from pristine to worn out over time. You can see how the waters and the wildlife have affected everything, and sometimes it's not so pretty. But hey, he did put it in the water, so he had to know that this was likely going to be the result. Number 4. Colossal Squid. And now for something that's truly a terror of the deep, I speak about the entity known as the Colossal Squid. It's one of the many squid species out there that's known to be rather terrifying in all the ways that matter. Not the least of which is that we still don't know everything about it, and what we do know is pretty freaky. For example, based on estimates of specimens that we've been able to study, which isn't as many as you would think, the colossal squid is believed to reach a length of about 46 feet at maximum. Even their lesser length of 33 feet is still enough to send chills down your spine. Just as important, though, is that their length is backed up by a weight that can be anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500 pounds, making it the biggest squid in terms of mass, so we think. That's the thing, because nobody's been able to study them as much as they want, and nobody still knows if these measurements are indeed the maximum. If you look it up, we've only been able to catch about 4 of them ever since they were discovered in 1925, and that's not a whole lot at all. Equally as scary, though, is that we do know they have the power and ability to make life difficult for those who get in their way. This includes their powerful tentacles, ink spraying, and their beaks. All in all, you can see why these creatures have been mistaken for the legends of the Kraken and such. They are big, scary, and look like they could take down a ship if provoked. Number 3. Zombie worms. Now before you say anything, you don't need to worry about an invasion of these creatures occurring. Though it should be noted that zombie worms are indeed one of the freakiest things out there in the world right now, and for the most basic of reasons, because they like to eat what's inside of your bones. Yes, they don't go for the brains, they actually go for the bones, and they're very good at doing that. In fact, they have an acid within them that allows them to burrow into your bones and get at the meaty good parts inside. Zombie worms, also known as ostacs, primarily feast on the bones of dead whales that sink to the ocean floor, creating what's known as whale falls. They don't actually have mouths or teeth. Instead, they use symbiotic bacteria in their bodies to break down and digest the fats and proteins in the bones. Their existence is crucial to the deep-sea ecosystem, as they play a vital role in recycling nutrients and keeping the ocean floor clean. Interestingly, they reproduce in an unusual way. Tiny males live inside the females' bodies, ensuring a constant supply of offspring. These worms have been found at depths exceeding 10,000 feet, where sunlight never reaches, proving how resilient life can be in the harshest environments. Thankfully, though, they only live in the ocean for now anyways. Number 2. The giant eyeball. Now here's one that might get your stomach churning just a bit, so you've been warned. If you were to go throughout history, some of the scariest things found from the ocean were not actually found in it but washed up on the shore. That's how we found the first squid and the oarfish. But what would you do if you found something as odd and freaky as a giant eyeball on the beach? Hopefully, your response wouldn't be to squash it, because that would be a waste, and it would indicate that you need to get some help with your anger issues. Regardless, when one was indeed found in Florida, it caused quite a stir. It was big, blue, and really did feel like it was looking at you, despite not being attached to any creature anymore. Speculation ran wild in the immediate aftermath of the discovery, with some theorizing that it could belong to a deep-sea creature that had yet to be discovered. Others wondered if the eyeball had somehow been preserved from a prehistoric animal, washing ashore as a remnant of Earth's distant past. Marine biologists quickly examined the eyeball, noting its unusual size and the clean way it had been removed, suggesting it hadn't fallen off naturally. The discovery highlighted the sheer diversity of life in the ocean and how little we truly know about its mysterious depths. It also sparked debates about the ethics of oceanic trophy hunting, as many believed that if it was indeed cut out by an angler, the act was wasteful and unnecessary. Thankfully, talk didn't immediately go to aliens, but rather to the question of what animal it had been attached to. They were able to eliminate some suspects due to how big the eyeball was, but obviously that wasn't enough for an identification. Some felt that it was a squid due to its size, but the truth was that it was apparently cut out of a swordfish by an angler, who then tossed it overboard. It's kind of a lame ending to a potentially scary story, but that's what happens with these things at times. And besides, just looking at that eyeball is still freaky. Number 1. Underwater crop circles. There are certain things in the world that raise alarm bells when you hear them, and one of those, for sure, is crop circles. When you hear that, you think of, well, aliens, of course, because they're what make them, right? But how would you explain ones that were made at the bottom of the seafloor? Underwater aliens, surely, you're screaming. And while I do admire the dedication, the truth is much stranger than fiction in this case. In 1995, divers noticed a beautiful, strange circular pattern on the seafloor off the coast of Japan. Soon after, more circles were discovered nearby. The more they popped up and then disappeared, the more people wondered what in the world was going on, because they had not seen anything like this underwater before. So much so that it took a literal decade for people to find out the truth. It was a mating call of sorts, specifically the call of a specific breed of pufferfish that was only just being discovered. They would indeed make these art pieces to attract a mate. Males laboriously flap their fins as they swim along the seafloor, resulting in disrupted sediment and amazing circular patterns. Oh, but wait, I'm not done. Once the piece is finished, the female comes in and inspects it, and only if she likes the piece will she mate with the male. So, if you're a bad artist and can't even draw a stick figure, you're going to be forever alone in the truth. We can't tell what's scarier, that the alien circles were just a fish's art project, that female pufferfish can apparently be art snobs, or that the male pufferfish can be better at art than most humans. I'll leave it up for you to decide. That's it for today's dive into the depths of the ocean and the terrifying discoveries lurking within. Which of these did you find the scariest? Are there any that seem less frightening now that we know more about them? Do you know of another scary ocean find that could fit perfectly on this list? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to check out the other cool videos on the screen, and I'll see you next time.